My name is Zoe. What's your name?
My name's Jayshan.
Okay, nice to meet you, Jayshan. How did we met? Can you tell us about how did we met?
Yeah, so I was just out here in New York City on the High Line, typing poems for strangers, just out here. And I do this maybe once a weekend, and I also travel around the world and I type for people for their events and different things.
Oh, so when did you start doing that?
Yeah, so this was maybe 3 years ago. Maybe to tattle on myself a little bit, I work with about 80 poets around the world, and we do activations and just fun things to really engage people. And a big thing that we do is use typewriters.
Oh, and where did you get that from?
Oh my goodness, so I have about 8 different typewriters. I get them from
way.
everywhere.
Okay.
Sometimes they're antique markets, sometimes it's eBay, sometimes I get typewriters from, actually this one is a funny story. I was walking in a museum and I had a typewriter in my hand and this older woman just saw it and she was like, oh my goodness, is that a typewriter? I'd love to gift you one I don't use. And she gifted me this typewriter, yeah.
Oh wow,
So
okay. That is cool.
They find me.
So you don't always have to pay expensive money for this kind of thing, right?
No, you can find a typewriter for $25. You can also get a typewriter for $1,000 if you want some custom chrome. So the range is there, but you can definitely find a really inexpensive machine.
Okay, cool. And what is your first memory of you writing a poem?
Oh my goodness, my first memory. I'll say my first memory of enjoying writing a poem was I was probably like 13, 14. I was probably like in high school, secondary school. And I had like this crush and I wrote her a poem and it was like really cheesy, but I was like, at that time, I was like, dang, people are really impacted by words.
Yeah.
So it's been something I've held on to. Yeah.
And so she fell in love with you?
We did date for a bit. So maybe I was a good writer.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the early.
Oh yeah, sure. Okay, cool. And
Yeah.
so what about before 3 years ago, what were you doing? Were you working in a very classic job?
So 3 years ago, I'm in my mid-20s right now. So before I started using typewriters, I was in school. I was studying human rights and social impact. I still do a lot of work around human impact and social rights. However, writing was just always something that was just on the forefront for me. I used to organize free writing communities here in New York. I used to do a free workshop every Saturday for 3 years, and I would just invite strangers, kind of like how we met. Like I'd meet someone and I'd be like, what are you doing Saturday? And I'd invite them out. I'd write with a bunch of people. So I was doing that for about 3 years, actually. I was doing that for 3 years before I started using typewriters.
Okay, the 3 years, what's going to happen now? Like 3 years, fast forward 3 years, what are you going to do?
That's a good question. I've been really lucky. Like I said, I work with about 80 poets around the world right now doing this with an agency called Ars Poetica.
Okay.
It's actually Latin for the art of poetry.
Of course, there has to be some Latin in it.
Right, of course. And we're really great because we get to work with just a phenomenal array of folks. For example, I'm doing this event next month in Detroit for this Org Amnesty International for their banned book cafe. So I get to create opportunities like that. And a big goal of mine is to keep finding great organizations, whether they're human rights, social impact, universities, working with students maybe. I do that as well. I teach workshops. And just creating potential through writing, through poetry. And I just want to keep doing that more and more.
So it's all about poem and that's about what you do, right? As an artist,
Yeah.
Is it poems, or you find yourself liking maybe painting or writing books? Because there's writing poems and writing maybe other kind of literature.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
what would you say?
So maybe a few things. I am working on my first poetry book, but I do dabble in other genres, right? There are times where I'm like, I want to explore, I want to play around. So like I might read sci-fi and go, oh, let me do like a chapter of a sci-fi novel and play around just to be, influenced, right, by different things. And of course I love all art forms, right? Just being in New York, we see murals, we get to go to galleries, we get to see so many things. And I think that inspires me. And oftentimes I just play around. Like this week I started taking ballet classes.
Oh, cool, man. Show me that. I'm kidding.
just to like, be in my body more and just try out new things. And it just influences things I do. Like as I write, even like the last few days, I'm like writing about movement and body and pirouettes and different things, right? Because there's so much influence around things, right? And I kind of just bring it all together.
Yeah, it's all about experimenting in the end. At the end of the day, you just want to experiment everything you want to do with your body, with your mind. That is cool. That is really cool. And so here, do you live in New York City?
Yeah, I live in Harlem. So I live uptown Manhattan. Yeah.
Okay. How is it out there?
I love it. There's so many great places to go to listen to live music. Most of my family's from Harlem. It's like home for me. Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool. So you better stay there. And you're just going to Detroit for like the Detroit. You said Detroit.
Yeah, I'm going to Detroit.
Thank you, Detroit. Thank you.
So even though New York's home, I travel around so much as a poet, right? I get opportunities all the time.
Yeah.
I'm in London. I'm in Colorado. I'm in LA. I'm in Costa Rica. Like I go to so many beautiful places to bring art to people.
Yeah. Okay. So one last question: what are the authors that have influenced you a lot since you started writing poems?
Yeah, and even some of these authors I'll name, they aren't all like poets, but some are poets. Like I love Denez Smith. I think they're a really, really great poet who emphasizes like great imagery and sound in their work. I love Ta-Nehisi Coates. He writes a lot around social impact. I think he just has a really powerful voice. I love Ocean Vuong, one of the best writers. Oh my goodness, he has a beautiful book on Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, as well as really great poetry. And one poet who I think is so underrated in our time is Hanif Willis Abdurraqib. Brilliant poet, brilliant essayist, and I don't know, like I want his name to go down in fame. Like he's one of the most powerful writers, and they all impact me because they really write strong personal narrative in their work, whether it's in a novel, whether it's through poetry, whether it's in an essay, and they really transport you into the realm as if you're them when you're reading. So I love reading their work. Yeah.
Do you know one of his poem by heart? Like one quote at least that you like, your favorite one that we'll be able to share?
Yeah, let me think. Maybe a Denez Smith quote from a poem Someone Somewhere. What is it? By Denez Smith poem Somewhere. It's somewhere a sun, boys brown as rye play to dozens and stay there. They jump in the air and become new moons, gum dark on all sides, blue tide. Just really, really beautiful language. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I had to close my eyes to make sure I could wrap my head around all the words.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is beautiful. And what about you? Can you read us a little poem of yours?
Yeah. Could I actually maybe just write you something?
Of
like
course. Just live. Do it.
And I'll do it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
If you're inspired, but I guess you are. You're always.
I'm always inspired. Like people inspire me so much. Yeah.
That is so nice.
And then maybe I can just write something about connecting with people as like people who utilize language and words, right? Because you said you're a journalist, right?
Yes.
Perfect.
Everything. Oh, cool, man.
And could you just tell me your name?
Zoe. My name is Zoe. Nice to meet you, of course.
Zoe.
Zoe. Yes, it is.
Perfect.
For Zoe. Oh yeah, sure, man. Please do.
For Zoe. These words become a home even when voyaged to new cities, where it all comes different. The trains pulling through the underground, feet crossing sidewalks as you hear a piece of the world in many languages. Where do you go when words can show you a country away from a country? It brings me sky free and open to possibility.
Oh wow, thanks a lot. It means so much. I love it.
Thank you.
I love it. Thanks a lot.
I'm just gonna envelope.
Actually,
don't hate me. I made too many mistakes.
I don't hate you. Oh, you're gonna write it down?
Let me just
you're
do it.
You're kind of a perfectionist, right?
Let me just do it really quick. I was just I never get nervous, but I've been asking. I've been asking the world, make me a little more nervous.
Yeah. You know what? Take your time, man. We can even stop recording. And
no. It's all
good.
good. It's all good. It's literally my fault. It has nothing to do with the. I'm on cameras too much, actually.
You're right. Oh, maybe I should let you focus.
Oh no, I can chat.
You can multitask.
I actually like chatting while I type.
Really?
That's actually my preference.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
I think that's when I'm going ease.
Cool.
There are days I sit outside, and I actually bring two typewriters.
Yeah.
Because sometimes kids come by, they're playing on a typewriter. I'm typing for their parents. I'm showing them how to use it. So that's actually when I'm at in my best element. So don't worry.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Actually, about a year ago, it was NBC for the Today Show. Actually, they did an interview of me called where I taught one of their anchors how to use typewriters, and it was a really fun time.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, actually, and they accidentally interviewed me last week. Like I was walking down the street, and it was this whole thing. They're like, there's this thing in New York now called Grandma Stand, where they get grandmas to like pop up and people get advice. And I was like, oh, I want to go talk to the grandma, and NBC was there, and they call our interaction, so it might be in the air. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, definitely, yeah. You're under the spotlight. Do you like it? What about the questions they were asking you? What about the questions?
Oh, I thought they were great. It was kind of like similar, right? Like, what's my interactions like? What's it
Yeah.
like writing for people? Why'd I get into this kind of work? Yeah.
And
So it
what
really-
is one question we never ask you, but you wish we did? You wish we did.
But I wish you did. That's a good question. Maybe let me. I'll brainstorm maybe while he
Oh, yeah.
what pops over.
Okay, sure. Yeah, you do the brainstorm and you like.
And I would say maybe a question that wasn't asked. I feel like you asked it in a way like, am I inspired by other things? But maybe something around why poetry over other genres, right? Maybe something like that, right?
Yeah.
Like, I could put all my time to be a painter or a dancer or different things. And the reason I really like poetry is the history of poetry has grown over time, right? The poetry that was written in the ancient world is different from the poetry written in the 1800s, very different from the poetry written today. And you could say that for other forms, but it's something drastically transformational, like the removal of rhyme, the removal of needing to remember something because you can't write it down, right? The push towards more narrative, right, in poetry. I love that transformation, and I love just the possibility of that really transforms the form, right? So I think that's why I like poetry over like other forms.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and you can tell that art, like poetry as any other art, it's just so important in our daily life. It brings beauty to every people's life, and we need that in our world. So thank you for bringing the beauty up, man. Thank you for bringing the beauty.
Thank you for coming all the way from
Montreal
just to
and
interview
France.
me. And France just to interview me. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, man.
I'm just gonna type my name on the back.
Oh yeah, sure. Please do.
Yeah.
Please do. And what is, maybe actually I got the answer, but what is the thing you do in life? Just tell me 2 things that brings you the most peace.
The most peace?
Yeah.
Like just generally?
Yeah.
So
Makes you feel like you belong.
that I belong?
Yeah.
I love, I mean, saying like doing this might be a cop-out answer, but I love hearing people's stories. Whether I'm reading a story or listening to another story, that brings me peace.
Yeah.
I think it's because I like being in space with people. So if I'm doing like yoga and there's a bunch of people around me, I feel really good. If I'm out typing and I'm typing for a bunch of people, I feel great. And that just goes for a lot of things. I saw this tweet forever ago that said like 20 minutes with your friends over dinner makes you feel like you want to live life again.
Oh shit, yes.
And like I truly mean, like I truly resonate with that, where it's like you spend time with close people, and I don't know, it can be a dinner, it can be watching a friend's reception, it could be just as long as you're in community. I think that's what brings me peace. Yeah.
The sense of community, once again, that is so precious. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you. This is your poem.
Thanks, man. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Shaking hands, freezing cold hands, but it's fine.
Of course.
Wish you the best.
Thank you.
And you can cut. Thanks a lot.